Well, boys and girls, you'll be voting on Saturday, or you may have been one of the 20% of Australians who pre-polled. So maybe this conversation won't really help you. But I'm perplexed and I'm puzzled. I've been involved in every federal election since about 1977. And I've been involved in don't vote campaigns, vote informal campaigns, vote for me campaigns, vote for this person campaign and that person campaign, but I've never seen a more lacklustre campaign in my life. Lacklustre in terms of policy, not just policy, but lacklustre in terms of the missing elector. Now, you wouldn't believe, if you've been following this election campaign, there are 8 million Australians who survive on social security benefits. As far as this election campaign, apart from the shortened opposition saying they may increase the Newstart allowance, there's been nothing there for people on social security benefits. Nothing. Nothing about improving communication with Centrelink, nothing about increasing staff at Centrelink, nothing about increasing the benefits that social security beneficiaries receive from the current government. It's as if these 8 million Australians don't exist. And then when you look at policy, let's look at First Nations people, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders in this country. Nothing in terms of looking at the Uluru Statement from the Heart. Nothing in terms of treaties. Nothing in terms of compensation. Nothing in terms of improving the lot of Indigenous people in rural and regional Australia. Nothing. Then when it comes, this is an election campaign about 10% of the population. It's about all those people with shares who receive franking credits. And you know you need about $2 million in shares in your superannuation fund to receive about $12,000 gift from the federal government in franking credits. But don't worry, if you've got $2 million in shares, I don't think you're going to worry about $12,000 in franking credits. And it's all about negative gearing. Only 8% of Australians are negatively geared. There is nothing in this campaign regarding the housing crisis, the housing emergency, the fact that 35 to 40% of a worker's or an individual's wage goes towards rent or paying a mortgage. Every dollar that goes to rent or paying a mortgage means there's less money in the economy. And those of you who are really excited by the Shorten Labor opposition's call to raise $154 billion over the next 10 years to be used for public health and public education, well, I'm a little bit excited. But $154 billion over 10 years because you remove franking credits and negative gearing. How about looking at some more interesting ways of raising money in this country? Taxation revenue in Australia last year was around $400 billion. 70% of that came from personal taxation, not from corporations. It came from personal taxation. Now we know there are some large transnational corporations in this country that legally pay no tax and will continue to pay no tax whether there are franking credits or negative gearing is removed. And there's nothing in the election campaign that actually looks at ways of increasing that revenue, which can then be used to address many of the issues that face individuals and communities in this country today. There are 24 million people on the continent, and we have child poverty. There's 800,000 children living in poverty. Not only do we have child poverty, we have homelessness in this country. We have people living on the most basic income through social security measures. We have working poor people. We have people that are being ripped off by their employers and not paid award rates. We have a minimum wage which is so low it keeps people below the poverty line. 24 million people, resource-rich continent. We export coal, we export diamonds, we export gold, we export iron ore, we export lithium, manganese, cobalt, sulfur, you name it, uranium, you name it, we export it. So where's all this money going? And why aren't these people being taxed? Why aren't they being taxed? So some interesting new ways of taxation. Number one, a 1% tax on stock market turnover. You can raise $35 to $45 billion per year on a 1% tax, and that's 400 billion over 10 years, not 154 or just 154 billion. You can introduce a 1% turnover tax on companies that have a turnover of more than $2 million. That captures all those companies which now legally pay no tax. You could raise $100 billion from that every year. You could actually, I don't know if you realise this, that you can actually, if you pay GST and you're a company, you recover that GST in your tax. You claim it as a tax deduction. When you buy something that you pay a GST on, you don't recover that. So you could cancel that and raise another $20 billion a year. So just by introducing 3 simple taxations benefits, you could actually eradicate child poverty, you could improve public health, you could house everybody in this country, you could have the mental health facilities that are required for the increasing levels of psychiatric issues that individuals face in this country, you could eradicate child poverty, you can do all these things. And all these things are within our grasp. For far too long we have believed that the only way that wealth is created is by giving investors tax breaks so they can employ us. If we nationalised without compensation every mineral resource we have, we would be richer per head of population than any other country in the world. The Norwegians have done that as far as their oil export is concerned. I mean, things are so ridiculous in this country. We sold all our gas exports for a fraction of what they're worth, and now there's not enough gas on the eastern seaboard, and people have to pay an extraordinary amount of money in manufacturing in order to get the gas to manufacture. So why should all these resources be given over to private companies who employ a small number of people, because these are highly mechanised industries, pay minimal royalties and pay no taxation? I mean, people like Gina Reinhardt, Mr. Twiggy, whatever his name is, Clive Palmer, the yellow boy, all these people pay minimal taxation, and they extract resources from the earth which belong to the First Nations people in this country, and the rest of the community. Could you imagine what could happen in First Nations communities, rural and regional, if they received a fair return on the mineral wealth that it's extracted in this country? Could you imagine what we could do if there was a fair return? But we don't talk about these things when elections are here. We talk about negative gearing, franking credits, keeping the 8 million Australian social security benefits in poverty, improving tax loopholes. We talk about peripheral social issues, things that should have been resolved years ago. We keep going back to. So this election, you do have a choice. And if you are the Australian who decides to vote, and voting is compulsory in this country, whether you vote or not is your business, but if you vote, I'm going to give you some advice. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. I'm saying is look at the policies. Facts and figures still matter. Facts and figures still matter. Does the policy initiative of a particular political party benefit the community, or does it benefit individuals? My advice is if it benefits the community, vote for that particular individual. Not that I have much faith in parliamentary democracy, because ultimately, ultimate political power in this country doesn't lie in Parliament, it lies in the boardrooms of national and transnational corporations. If ultimate political poverty lay in Parliament, you wouldn't have children housed in glass cages in police stations in Queensland. You wouldn't have children housed in atrocious conditions across this country. You wouldn't have child poverty. You wouldn't have any of the problems that we have today. Obviously we'd have problems, but many of the problems which are based on economic inequality, we would not have. So when you vote, it's not the end of your political activities for the next 3 years. It is the beginning because it's what you do in between elections which matters. Facts and figures matters, and feet on the ground matter. And don't forget that over the next 3 years, casting a ballot is just one way of trying to decide which way the society will go. What we need to do is we need to become more active and participate more. And if you want to learn about what actions to take, there are many actions you can take. I'm not telling you what to do, but what I am telling you is there's no point clicking that website, there's no point having virtual friends, there's no point being involved in countless, useless, boring discussions on the net. You need to put your feet on the ground. It's feet on the ground, as we are seeing in the Sudanese social revolution, which is occurring as I speak, which changes the future of the people and society. We can change our future. Casting a ballot is just one small way of doing that. Enjoy the election. Winners or losers, next week we'll talk about something else. Thank you for listening or watching. Let your friends know, and if you don't like it, bad luck.